pro wrestling purgatory, when a wrestler has no idea who they are or what they do. You'll see this a lot with babyface trainee wrestlers when they come out and they're like, come on! And they don't really have any sort of character bar, I'm a wrestler. Come on! This is the foundation that wrestling was built on. Every time a nervous babyface shouts, come on, to a polite smattering of applause from a usually family-friendly audience, an angel grows its wings. This is wrestling. But the best part is the fact that it doesn't just happen on a local level. It happens at the very top as well, right? Case in point, John Cena. He says ruthless aggression. He slaps Kurt Angle. Very cool, yeah? But after he slapped Kurt Angle and before he started rapping, where was he? What was he doing? Who was John Cena? No one knows. He doesn't even know. It was just John. So in this video, I'm going to go through the entire WWE roster and see who ended up going through this awkward era. I'm not researching any of this. It's purely from memory, so if any of you have any other suggestions, let me know. So, not every wrestler has been through this in WWE. You'll see people like AJ Styles debut and they're like, oh, look at me, everybody knows me and I'm really cool. Yeah, grow up, right? Childish. Embarrass yourself like everyone else, right? There's plenty of examples, though. The first one is 205 Live, right? It's a weird example to start with, but I'm putting the entire 205 Live roster on here because someone like Mustafa Ali didn't really go through a super awkward phase at any point individually, I don't think. But 205 Live as a whole, oh my Christ. They were kind of on Raw, but not on Raw. They were kind of a brand, but not a brand. Their main event title scene that their entire weekly show was built around played out on the pre-show of pay-per-views when people were still making it to their seat. Then the title moved to NXT, so now anyone that was left on 205 Live was fighting over literally nothing. And that is the perfect example of pro wrestling purgatory. Aaliyah. Despite having one of the most underrated theme songs of all time, I'm dead serious, look it up, Aaliyah's entire career is purgatory. Now don't be a cheating cunt, right? Don't Google it. Can you name a single Aaliyah match, ever? I don't mean your favourite, I don't mean the best, I just mean a match. Any match, or promo, anything. I'm not even saying she's bad. She might be the best wrestler ever. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever even seen her wrestle. This is a weird example because it's not just one phase. It's her entire WWE run thus far, which, by the way, started in 2015. 7 years ago. Despite wave after wave of cuts and releases, she has survived all the way up till now. Maybe she's part of a money laundering scheme, maybe she's a genius, maybe she's not even employed by WWE, she just shows up with such confidence that nobody questions it, and they can't really question it now because they've left it so long, it'd just be rude to say anything. Either way, I love Aaliyah for being able to last this long, and her underrated longevity reminds me of another wrestler, Angelo Dawkins. A lot of people don't realise this, but Angelo Dawkins has been around for years. His first match in NXT was 10 years ago. There's obviously nothing awkward about Street Profits, yeah? But Angelo Dawkins and Sawyer Fulton. Supposedly, they were meant to be part of this big amateur wrestling faction led by Chad Gable, but because it never made it to TV, the tag team was just sort of there until the Street Profits worked out. Apollo Crews. This man was called up from NXT way too fast. His whole character was literally just generic happy man. Even with Titus Brand and the US title, there was just nothing there. Like, his run in NXT now feels more like what his first run should have been. Becky Lynch. I don't want to talk about this one. Bobby Lashley. This is fucking weird, right? Usually you'll find somebody at their most awkward when they either debut for the first time, they're about to get released, or they've just split from a tag team or a faction. Like, if Tucker or Peyton Royce were still with WWE and they've just split from their teams, they'd be perfect for this video. But the Lashley situation is so weird, right? One of my core memories as a child is when Undertaker won the Royal Rumble and he had to decide which champion he wanted to face for the title, right? Was it John Cena and his WWE title, Batista and his World Heavyweight title, or Bobby Lashley and his ECW World title? As if Undertaker was like Tommy Dreamer, just incredible, the Sandman, and now me. What a lineage. But despite being a former world champion, kinda, fighting John Cena, destroying the entire TNA roster, and being just as dominant as he could possibly be after leaving, it was when he came back that things just felt weird. He was just a generic babyface, and post-return but pre-MVP Bobby Lashley was just weird. Bray Wyatt. Husky Harris claimed that he was a tank with the Ferrari engine, but if you put a Ferrari engine in a tank, it wouldn't move. Cedric Alexander. The Hurt Business were arguably the coolest faction ever, but they reunited and disbanded and reunited and disbanded to the point where I don't know what Cedric Alexander even is anymore, and until they have like a proper full-on reunion, he's stuck here forever. Chad Gable, Shorty G, what the fuck? Commander Azeez. A third Commander Azeez mention in 3 videos. What a time to be alive. He's not here because of his Commander Azeez era or his Raw Underground era. He's here because of the Saudi Arabian Royal Rumble, where he just randomly showed up because he was big and fancied his chances. In fact, that entire Royal Rumble could possibly make this video. Who the fuck was Dan Mata? Dana Brooke, a 13-time champion. But she wasn't always that successful, and a lot of her run after NXT was pretty awkward, to be honest. Duke Hudson, Brendan Vink, and Shane Thorne were wrestling on Raw, while managed by MVP. I have never seen this. I don't remember this. Google is telling me that it's real. Apologies if it isn't. Elias. Elias was once called Elias Sampson. He once shared a surname with the breakdancer from Britain's Got Talent. He also had a theme song, which is just weird, and it makes me weirdly uncomfortable to look back on. Eric. There is nothing that exemplifies what I'm talking about in this video more than a tag team member who gets injured, but then his partner keeps wrestling on his own despite having absolutely no aspirations as a singles wrestler. So they're just there, usually on main event. Giovanni Vinci. Fabian Eichner was a part of Imperium, right? Obviously, really serious faction with Gunther and the lads. Then Gunther gets called up, Ludwig Kaiser goes with him, but Eichner stays back so that he can be a model for a few weeks called Giovanni Vinci. Meanwhile, on SmackDown, LA Knight forms a model agency with Mansoir and Massey, so you're thinking, wow, I guess we know where Vinci's off to next, and then he gets his main roster call-up, and he's back with Imperium. So that was just a weird little diversion that he went on for a minute. Jinder Mahal. This one's proper weird because this is the only person in this video whose awkward era came when they were world champion. Even in hindsight, it looks really weird seeing him with the belt. WWE tried to appeal to the Indian market because I think they had a show coming up at the time, and they went, we're going to give you what you want. Roman Reigns. Jinder Mahal. And, like, they know he's Canadian. They have Google. It's like me scrambling for an overpriced UFC ticket to go and see the Irish hand grenade Marcus Davis from Maine. Like, yeah, no, I still like the fella, and he does have Irish heritage, as does Jinder with India, but it's not exactly the Great Khali. Karrion Kross. There's no point in me talking for this bit. The pictures do all the talking. The pictures do all the talking. Madcap Moss, literally the inspiration for this video. Why is he named after a plant? Why is the cap not happy? Why am I supposed to like someone who was part of a hated duo that only came to an end when the other person effectively ended it? Why does he have playing gear? Who is Madcap Moss? What is his plan? The fella has no identity. Nikki Ash. Nikki Ash, after she lost the title and became a heel but still wore the mask. I didn't really get that, to be honest. Randy Orton. I didn't know that this version of Orton existed. I remember SmackDown Here Comes the Pain was the only game I had back in 2007. And I remember whenever I picked him, I used to always wonder why he looked like such a nerd compared to the fella that I knew from TV. It was like kicking John Cena's dad in. And it's because he was a nerd. Rhea Ripley. This era of Rhea Ripley is absolutely fucking insane. Robert Roode. Does anyone else remember when Bobby Roode decided to become Robert Roode, and he had he had that big fuck off Rick Rude mustache, and then it was just never mentioned again? Did I imagine that? Roman Reigns' awkward era was not when he was a main eventer and the fans hated him. It was when he was in NXT. These pictures are so weird to look at. Like, he is technically listed as NXT alumni, but that is a completely different wrestler. Don't tell me that wrestler went on to become the tribal chief, because he just didn't. Sheamus. ECW Sheamus was the fucking GOAT, but also probably the most appropriate Sheamus to put in this video. The fella used to open every promo by speaking Irish until he realised that nobody understood what he was saying. Fuck them. That's their problem, right? Granted, there's not even 200,000 people who speak it as a first language, but that's their fault. And as the ancient Celtic saying goes, Is Motlum Bonya, which means the warrior must learn the language of his combatants. Shelton Benjamin. When Shelton Benjamin returned, he had this weird gimmick on SmackDown where the interviewer would ask him a question and he'd just roll his eyes around and make weird faces in response. And I remember the speculation at the time. Shelton Benjamin is the Beast Whisperer. He's the only wrestler in the company who has history with Brock Lesnar as his tag team partner. He'll be able to tame the beast. He's subtly hinting towards... No. No, that was it. That was the entire character. Tamina. Tamina's just like that. There's no real moment I can pick. It's just Tamina. T-Bar. This is too obvious. I don't actually need to explain this one either. The Grizzled Young Vets. What the fuck is this? You have one of the best talkers in the company doing this. The New Day. The New Day one is mad, because how the fuck can people as charismatic as Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston and Big E have an awkward era, right? But when the New Day formed, it was meant to be a dead serious, no messing group, which is pretty funny when you look at who they actually became. Tommaso Ciampa. The only weird thing that I remember about Tommaso Ciampa's WWE run is when he wrestled on NXT, and then because Impact was taped well in advance, he wrestled for Impact and WWE at the same time. I think I'm the only person who noticed this because I was the only person watching Impact at the time. Veer. Veer is currently best known for spending 5 months as a video package, which isn't really the most ideal thing to be when you're supposed to be a wrestler. Johnny Gargano. In 2007, Johnny Gargano wrestled on SmackDown as the champion of Liechtenstein, Cedric von Hausen. Okay, that one was actually pretty cool.